This is a 2x4 Lego brick. It was the first brick that let two pieces lock together and make the whole Lego system work, all because of this tube and stud design. It was first patented by Gottfried Kirk in January 23, 1958, and became the base of hundreds of other bricks and thousands of worlds made out of Lego. If you grew up with Lego, you remember getting your Lego sets as Christmas gifts, spending entire Saturday mornings on bedroom floor building worlds only you could imagine, a feeling that still makes you smile. But today, people are angry.
Lego has fallen off and is now pricing an entire generation of kids out of their own childhood.
You know those Lego sets you buy your children all the time? Well, they're a gold mine.
Nothing is sacred anymore, and you can't just enjoy things for what they're supposed to be. It's all focused around money.
Prices have doubled in last 20 years. Kids are priced out, and the best-selling sets are not even marketed to children anymore. So what happened to Lego? Did they get greedy, lost the plot, forgot what the brick was for? Or did Lego become exactly what it was always designed to be? This is a story of creativity and innovation. How a single brick designed thousands of worlds. How Lego became part of an entire generation's childhood and then priced them out. And as always, we'll see what we can learn from the Lego system and apply to our own work. And maybe a few things that we won't. But to understand all of that, we first need to understand the world this brick came from.
My grandfather, for him it was really making quality toys that were good for children. That is also why he came up with the name Lego. Lego means play well in Danish.
This is Ole Kirk Christiansen. He was born in a small farming village in Denmark called Billund. When he was 25, he bought a carpentry workshop in Billund, and for years he built normal things. Houses, furniture, ladders, ironing boards, the kind of stuff every village needs. Then 1929 happened. The Great Depression hit. And suddenly, nobody was buying furniture or houses anymore. Ole's workshop was struggling, so he did what a lot of desperate craftsmen did back then. He started making toys. Small wooden toys like yo-yos, pull-along ducks, cars, airplanes. They were simple but well made. By 1934, Ole decided that this was his future, toys. So he decided to open a company, and for the name, he held a competition among his workers. In the end, he chose his own idea. He combined two Danish words, leg, godt, which means play well. Leg, godt, Lego. And here's the beautiful coincidence. Ole didn't know about that, but in Latin, Lego also means I put together or I assemble. Pretty perfect for a company that would later become all about building, right? For the next few years, Lego made wooden toys, and they were doing okay, not great, but okay. Then, around 1947, plastic was introduced. Ole heard about a new machine from England, a plastic injection molding machine. And he saw some clear benefits of it. Like plastic was cheaper than wood. You could make more toys faster, and you could make shapes that were impossible to carve from wood. So he bought one of those machines. It was expensive, risky, and a lot of people thought that he was crazy, but he believed in it. And Lego became the first toy company in Denmark to start making plastic toys. At first, they made simple stuff. Plastic turtles, toy cars, little animals. But in 1949, they started making something new. Plastic bricks. They called them automatic binding bricks. Now, Ole did not invent these bricks. The idea came from England. A company called Kiddicraft had created this interlocking plastic bricks a few years ago in 1939. They had studs on the top so you could stack them. Lego saw these bricks and they basically copied the idea. But these early bricks were not great. They had studs on the top so you could connect them, but the connection was very weak. If you built something and tried to pick it up, it would just fall apart. They were barely better than the wooden blocks. For almost 10 years, Lego sold these bricks, but they were not a huge success. Then, one day in 1954, Ole's son, Gottfried Kirk Christiansen, had a conversation with a toy buyer from Denmark. The buyer said something that stuck with him.
Darn this industry. I just think that toys are no good nowadays. Oh, they work fine, sure, but there's no system in anything.
System?
And that word system stuck with Gottfried.
System? There isn't any system. The toys need an idea and a system built around it.
He started thinking that what if Lego bricks were not just random toys? What if they were part of a system where every brick you ever bought could work with every other brick? So he started thinking and figured out that the problem was not the studs on the top. The problem was the bottom of the brick. It was completely hollow. There was nothing holding the bricks except the friction. So he added 3 hollow tubes inside the bottom of the brick, and now when you press 2 bricks together, the studs on top would slide into these tubes on the bottom. And finally, on January 28, 1958, Gottfried patented this design that built the foundation for one of the most successful toys ever made.
Lego is here. Hey, kids, look. A whole new world to build. 'Cause Lego is here.
This young boy has such fun. He used Lego one by one.
To understand the world of Lego, we have to understand what actually makes this brick work. But if you're not interested in the design part and just want to know how kits are priced out, then use the timestamps below to move to the next section. But coming back to the design, the brick does not work just because these tubes grips the studs. It's about how they grip them. And there's a term for it called as clutch power. According to Lego's own internal standards, the clutch power must be between 30 and 50 newtons of force. That's roughly 4 to 11 pounds of pull force. Strong enough that your creation does not fall apart when you pick it up, and loose enough that a child can pull it apart without hurting their fingers. And to understand how they achieve this, we need to look at every single element of this brick. Let's start with the dimensions. The basic unit of Lego is 8mm. It's the distance between 2 studs. So a 1x1 brick is 8mm by 8mm. A 2x4 brick is 16mm by 32mm. Well, almost. It's actually 31.8mm long, 15.8mm wide, and 9.6mm tall. Why the 0.2mm difference? That's tolerance. This tiny gap between the bricks is essential because if the bricks were exactly 16mm and 32mm, they would be too tight to fit together. That 0.1mm gap on each side gives you just enough clearance so that studs can slide in, but not so much that the connection is loose. Now let's look at the studs. Each stud is 4.8mm in diameter and 1.7mm in height, and the spacing between them is exactly 8mm center to center. This creates a perfect grid system that works in all directions. Now flip the brick over. There are 3 main tubes here, each one with an outer diameter of 6.5mm and internal diameter of 4.8mm. But if you see closely, on the internal wall, there are 4 tiny straight columns that provide rigidity and clutch power. Then we have 2 main ribs in the center and 12 small ribs on the wall to provide stability and keep the wall straight. Then for each stud, we have a hole in the back to avoid sink marks and give more strength to the studs. Then we have small text markings that shows you the year the brick was made and the serial number of the mold it came from. So that's all about the dimensions and the details in a brick. But how do these dimensions help in making 2 Lego bricks connect? So when you press a brick down onto another brick, the studs on the bottom brick slides around the tubes on the top brick. The straight ribs inside the tube give support to the contact points and avoid any kind of flex in the tube. And it's not just the grip between the studs and the tube that connects 2 bricks. This connection works due to friction. And grips with just 4 points on a tube or 1 point per stud is not enough. That's why if you look closely, the straight ribs on the walls are also acting as contact points to give the extra friction necessary for the grip. So now each stud has 3 contact points, one on the tube and 2 on the wall. And that's how, with just simple friction, the whole Lego system works. But this is not just a brick. It's also the foundation of an entire universe of over 3,700 different Lego elements that all work together perfectly. Plates, slopes, wheels, hinges, gears, minifigures, transparent pieces, flexible tubes, every single one of them clicks into the same system. So how did Lego go from one brick to thousands of pieces while keeping everything compatible? To make an infinite system, you have to start with a single unit, like a metric system, and then you can scale high or low. And for Lego, that unit was this 2x2 grid on this 8mm stud square. So you can scale this from 1 to 2 to 3 and so on. You can just extend the grid in all directions. But if you look closely, extending this grid multiple times will give you a flat plane. And for that, the 9.6mm was too thick. That's where the plate comes in. A Lego plate is exactly 1/3 the height of a brick, 3.2mm. This means 3 plates stacked together equals 1 brick. And this gives you much finer control over the height. And similarly, to give you better control over the width, Lego created this 1x4 brick. It's exactly the half of this 2x4 brick. All of these basic bricks are called volume bricks because they create the basic 3-dimensional volume. But they also created a problem. Now everything was very blocky because you can only build in 90-degree angles. So houses look like boxes and cars look like rectangles. So to solve this, Lego introduced bricks with slopes and angles, or what are called directional bricks. These pieces had angled surfaces with different slopes, and some of them even had rounded shape for aerodynamic design. With them, you could build roofs that actually look like roofs, spaceships with sleek noses, and cars with proper hoods. But even with slopes and curves, there was still a problem. Everything had studs everywhere. You do get a clean side, but you cannot get a top surface which is clean. That's where tiles or surface bricks come in. Tiles are essentially plates with same thickness, same grid system, but with no studs on top. They are completely smooth, and this changed everything. Now you could build a train with a smooth roof or create buildings that actually look like stone, not like walls made of bumps. But a world is not just shapes and surfaces. A world needs to move, doors needs to open, wheels needs to spin. And that's where the function bricks come in. These are pieces that don't just sit there, they do something. Like hinges that let parts rotate, gears that transfer motion, or axles that let wheels turn. And this led to Lego Technic, a whole subsystem built around function, but with the same 8mm grid underneath it. So now you have volume, you have shape, you have surface, you have the function, and then comes the environment, the objects in our surroundings. That's where the decoration bricks come in. These are elements that are not about structure, they are about story. Trees, flowers, fences, lampposts, food items, tools, weapons, and all of that. And finally, to give life to the buildings, to the vehicles, and the surroundings, Lego created the minifigures. In 1978, 20 years after the first brick was patented, Lego introduced the minifigure, and it completed the system. The minifigure is exactly 4 bricks tall, 38.4mm. You could create infinite characters from the same base form. Knights, astronauts, firefighters, wizards, pirates, police officers, superheroes, millions of combinations, all compatible with every Lego set ever made. And that's when Lego became complete. First the brick, then the world, and finally the people.
Children have only been offered ready-made solutions. They need something different that will strengthen their imagination and creativity.
So you're trying to put Lego into a system? Interesting.
Lego made this brick, but it's the people like you and me who made it successful. So what are the philosophies that Lego followed to become your favorite? And why is Lego walking away from them and pricing you out? Lego's entire empire is built on just 3 simple philosophies: the possibility of creativity, the magic of a modular system, and the power of human connection. Let's start with the first one, the possibility of creativity. For decades, Lego's greatest trick was that they did not sell you a finished toy. They sold you raw potential. When you bought a box of Lego, it practically dared you to think. The instruction booklet was just a suggestion, a starting point. If you wanted to build a spaceship on the box, great. But you could just as easily build a dragon, a skyscraper, or a weird futuristic car, at least for the smaller sets. I personally don't know anyone who is going rogue for the big ones. But initially, Lego used to sell something called the back-of-the-box builds. In the 80s and 90s, Lego used to sell these sets which did not just show the main model, it also showed 3 or 4 alternative builds at the back, without any instructions, just the pictures. So you can either build this castle on the front of the box or make these alternative arrangements on the back of the box with some more creativity. And Lego's marketing campaign at that time leaned heavily into this exact philosophy. They were not showing big, hyper-detailed movie replicas, they were showing raw, chaotic imagination. For example, in 1981, they made this print ad featuring a young girl in blue jumpsuit proudly holding a completely random and mismatched creation that she built herself. And the headline simply read, "What it is beautiful." It showed that they cared about how the child felt because she made it from scratch. And by the 90s, they turned this entire philosophies into their most iconic tagline. Just imagine. The commercials and posters showed Lego bricks with shadows of objects that they could be. But that creativity and imagination only worked because of the second pillar, the magic of the modular system. We already looked at the extreme engineering of the 8mm grid and the perfect clutch power. But it's the philosophy behind that brick that actually matters. Which means that you could take a red brick manufactured in 1965 and a yellow plate manufactured in 2026 and they will click together the exact same way. The system meant that a pile of Lego bricks could never truly become obsolete. It was a permanent investment in a lifetime of building. And I also talked about this in my IKEA video, that when your current products works with everything new you buy, the customer never leaves. Because leaving or switching to a new brand means starting over again. But even these two philosophies of the creativity and the system could not save them when the things went wrong. By the late 90s, Lego was expanding everywhere. Theme parks, clothing lines, TV channels, watches, and due to all of that, they were losing $1 million every single day. And what saved them was the third philosophy, the one which was not designed by Lego, but built by the fans, completely without them, the product-human connection. While the company was busy losing money on clothing lines and theme parks, the fans were doing something incredible. They were gathering on early internet forums. They were hosting unofficial conventions. They were trading old parts, writing softwares to design their own models, and sharing custom builds. They kept the pure spirit of the brick alive when Lego itself had completely lost the plot. And when a new CEO named Jürgen Vig Kunstop took over in 2004 to stop the bankruptcy, he realized that their greatest asset was not their factory machines, it was their passionate community. So Lego swallowed their pride, opened their doors, and asked the fans for help. They started hiring designers straight out of the fan community. They launched a platform where if a fan's custom design got enough votes from the community, Lego would actually manufacture it as an official set. This human connection became the ultimate social glue. It made you feel like you were part of a global club. A club that passed bricks down from parents to kids. A club where you dumped a box onto bedroom rug and suddenly age, background and budget didn't matter. You just built together. It was accessible, it was communal, and it saved the company. But if you walk into a Lego store today, you will see a completely different philosophy on display. You will see these massive towering boxes that cost $400, $500, or even $600. And the best-selling, most talked about Lego sets are made for only 18+. They are not designed for creativity. They are designed to be built exactly once, following rigid instructions, and then placed gently onto an adult shelf to gather dust as a display piece. The toy that once belonged to every child on the block is fast becoming an expensive hobby for adult collectors with disposable income. kids are quite literally being priced out of their own playground. So, how did we get here? It all started with the exact strategy that saved them in 2004. They realized who actually holds the wallet: adults. Because kids have small allowances, but adults have credit cards and no one to tell them no. So Lego realized that it's much easier to sell one $200 set to a collector than 10 $20 sets to a struggling parent. But to hook those adults, Lego needed giant movie franchises like Star Wars, Harry Potter, and Marvel. These sets sold like crazy, but big movie studios take a massive cut of the profit. And to pay this movie tax and still make money, Lego had to jack up the retail prices. And then came the ultimate psychological trick: the sleek, black 18+ boxes. This turned Lego from a toy you step into a bedroom into a luxury home decor. A parent will never pay $500 for a kid's toy, but an adult will absolutely pay $500 for a piece of nostalgic art to display on their shelf. And finally, there's the piece count illusion. See, the price per individual brick hasn't actually changed much over the decades. What changed is the design. To make the sets look more realistic for adults, Lego stopped using big plastic blocks. Instead, they stuffed boxes with thousands of tiny pieces. So the piece count exploded, and so did the final price tag. And that is the ultimate irony. The adult fans who loved the bricks so much that they saved Lego from bankruptcy are the exact reason Lego stopped prioritizing children. They didn't lose the plot, they just followed the money. Lego built a world twice, first in plastic and then in community. But the real question is, what does any of that mean for the thing that you're trying to build? The first thing is something that Gottfried figured out in 1958.
System? System? The toys need an idea and a system built around it.
He didn't just fix the brick, he built a system. Now, most of the times, it's very easy to make a great product, but it's much harder to make a product that makes every future product better. Think about IKEA. A PAX wardrobe frame from 2005 still accepts a new door from 2024. The Billy bookcase you bought in your first apartment still fits the same inserts they sell today. Your old purchase never becomes obsolete. It becomes a reason to come back. That's not just good design, that's a loyalty mechanism built directly into the product. So if you're building something, a tool, a design system, a content library, or even a course, ask yourself, does your new work make the old work more valuable, or does it just replace it? Then the second thing that Lego did right, almost by accident, was let go of control at the exact right moment. When the company was bleeding money in the 90s, the fans did not wait to be asked. They just showed up and built forums, conventions, and custom softwares. They kept the spirit of brick alive without any single instructions. And when the CEO noticed, he did not ignore them, he hired them. Most brands treat their community as an audience, a number on a dashboard, but occasionally a brand figures out that the most passionate slice of their audience is not just watching, they are building. Reddit was kept alive for years by unpaid moderators. Wikipedia runs entirely on volunteers. Notion's best templates were made by users, not the product team. I mean, even this YouTube is functioning because people like me are creating and people like you are watching it. This pattern is always the same. A small group of people loving your product in ways you can never imagine. But there's one lesson that Lego didn't mean to teach you. The fans who saved Lego almost became their most profitable customers. And the moment Lego noticed that, the child stopped being the priority. It was not bad or evil, it was logical. And it happens everywhere. Twitter chased power users and advertisers and alienated the casual ones who made it human. Instagram optimized for influencers and reels and quietly pushed out the people who used it to share photos with friends. Every platform, every product, every brand eventually faces the same question. Who are you actually building for? And the answer that makes the most financial sense is rarely the right one in long term. Because your most passionate fans today were once the beginners yesterday. And if you only build for who they are now, You will stop making the room for who is just arriving. It's not greed, it's just gravity. So did Lego lose its soul? The honest answer is, the brick never had a soul. You gave it one. You built the spaceship no one asked for. You ignored the instruction and made something that only you could imagine. Lego just watched what you did with it and charged accordingly. I don't know if that's betrayal. That's just what happens when a system works too well. And if you're building something of your own, that's the one thing to hold on to. You don't control what your product means to people. You just control how well it's made. The rest, they'll figure out by themselves. Just like they did with this. That's all for today. I'll see you in the next one.